Hi friends, Dr. Randolph here. Thought I'd take a couple of moments and share with you my thinking about the way things are now and the way forward as I see it. So here is my vision of the way things are now. We're off the map. We are in unprecedented times, in my lifetime at least. We are in a position where we need to maximize our flexibility, our integrity, our kindness, our thoughtfulness, and our ability to internalize life's important values and lessons. I am here to try and help you with that. That is supposedly my training. I hope that I can come through at this critical moment. That is what we are trained to do in the humanities. If you will recall, the very first day of class, I welcomed you to what I claimed arrogantly, jokingly, was the most important class that you would ever take in your life. Now, I said I'll only make this claim and this welcome because I know that my colleagues are going to also approach teaching their classes with the exact same commitment, focus, and confidence in their discipline that I am. But I had to add that this class would be the most important class because it would be the class that was about your life more than about the discipline, because my discipline is about life. So here's my final exam. You're going to have to determine if what I say is true, and I am hoping that I'll be up to the task. So that was the first thing that I wanted to say, to remind you that we are engaged in a singularly important bit of work that is appropriate for this moment. It helps us to focus on the essential things, to prioritize. And I offer you this bit of insight. See if you find it to be true. Priorities come in sets of one. You can't have multiple priorities. You have one priority. And I would say right now, we are discovering this in a very, very significant way. The priority that all of us must have right now is our families. We must take care of one another. And since I'm not your family, I am not the priority. But I'd like to think that I'm a member of your community. So somewhere down the list of priorities, once you've got your family squared away and you guys are feeling good about where you are and how you've taken care of one another, perhaps you can give some time to the invitations that I intend to make. And I'm going to do that in just a second. Here's the second thing that I wanted to say. And it's again a reminder to my current E2C students and to the students that had me when they were sophomores. And that is that I believe that we have engaged in a wrong bit of thinking about what education's purpose is. I believe, especially for those of us who are in college prep, independent school work, that we have focused on college as an end in itself and the status involved in it, as opposed to what these wonderful schools can do to enhance the value of our lives and the lives of our fellow citizens. In other words, the way that we can save the world for the next generation. Those are a big part, the lion's share of the work that higher education is supposed to do, right? But we have gotten fixated on name brands. Consequently, a metaphor has emerged about college prep education, and that is, it's an evacuation. That we need to get into a lifeboat to survive, and that there are only a finite number of lifeboat seats available. And so we need to make sure that we're in the proper line, that we are are justifying our place in that line, that we might even need to elbow some people to make sure that we're in that line to evacuate and to survive. Okay, so I don't think that that's the metaphor that is actually appropriate, and I think that our times at this very moment are screaming for us to revise that flawed metaphor. I think that that other metaphor, the metaphor that Chaucer gives us of a pilgrimage, where we all start from different places for different reasons. We go at different paces. We might straggle a bit. Others might hop to the front, but we're still kind of a group. We're traveling together in the broadest sense of the word, and our goal is to reach Canterbury, which is redemption. We want to redeem ourselves. We'd like to be saved, but we want to do it together. But together doesn't mean that we are in lockstep, that we're marching like soldiers who have no individuality. We're on our pilgrimages. We're going at our own paces for our own reasons, but we should expect to tell a story, and we should expect to listen to stories. That's how we're going to stick together regardless of the distance between us in the group as we move forward to the same destination of redemption. Thankfully, we have digital and technological means to do this. If any of you are having problems with that, you can email me, call me, text me, 734-476-7518, so that I can do what I can do to try and get you reconnected with us so that we can move together. Now, if this pilgrimage idea is going to work, it has to be voluntary. You have to see it as an invitation. That's what I'm offering you, an invitation. You are not required. This is not a baptism. It's a pleasure dip. So I want to invite you to it. And I want to try and make it pleasurable, as opposed to spending countless hours staring at the wall. I think that your curiosity, your native intelligence, is going to demand that you engage that brain of yours. And so I'm going to try and do that with various kinds of work. But understand, we're on a pilgrimage, and this is an invitation to join us. Please, in your good time, in your own individual way, join us. If there are problems, please let me know. Contact me. Let me do the thing that I was put here to do, which is to keep us together. I want to be the host. I'd like to be Harry Bailey. I'd like to bring us along, and I'll do it like Harry Bailey, imperfectly. And I will have my own problems like Harry Bailey has. But I do want to be your host, and I do want to cheer us along the way. So to get the ball rolling, I propose to give you a little anecdote, story, if you will. It is self-consciously bad or weak or insufficient, because I know each of you can do a better job than what I'm about to do. I want to keep the bar low and keep it fun. So without further ado, let me share with you a quick little anecdote that was illuminating, let's just say, to me, and I learned it when I was in college. But to give you a sense of what I learned, I have to paint some background for this this play. I have to create the scenery, and to do that I need to show you a photo. So let me see if I can show it to you without getting the glare off of it blinding you. All right, so I have to tilt it back a little bit to keep it from being glary. What you're looking at right now is the Pepperdine College Year in Europe student group and faculty for 1967 and 68. Now, those of you who are both good in history and math will know this is just like 20 something years after the fall of the Third Reich. So I was with my family for a year going to kindergarten, a proper kindergartner, in 1967, not too long after Hitler had been defeated. So we're talking about a country that was trying to rebuild in every sense of the word, right? Pepperdine College was there to try and evangelize. This was a mission project. They had planted a church there, the Gemeinde Christi in Hanschuheim. And my father and others were there to try and nurture this Gemeinde, this community, this church along, as well as to teach these students and have these students broaden their horizons about Europe, because Europe was an interesting place to go, because it was a place that had just recently survived a catastrophic war. So if you look in the front row, you will see my father with a light trench coat on, my sister in his lap, then myself, my brother with his handsome flat top, and my beautiful mother there. So this is the Randolph family in 1967 in the Heidelberg Castle courtyard. Now the Heidelberg Castle is one of the most beautiful romantic ruins in Germany, and romantic in the 19th century German sense of the word, that it stimulated all sorts of passionate remembering and sort of poetic philosophical feelings. So in 1966, or I'm sorry, 67, 68, I was there with my family, and I had tremendous memories, still very vivid. For example, the house just beside the castle where the students lived, it was called the Moore House. It had been bought very strategically right after the war, was itself historically significant because it's where the Allied command had situated itself for its final push. Just outside the house, between the house and the castle itself, which was about a 1-minute walk, there was what was called a pillbox. It was a machine gun nest made out of concrete, and so I would walk by that as a 7-year-old to dinner every night. So that was something that I remember very, very vividly, as well as going to school and not knowing a single word in the language that was being spoken, sitting for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what was going on. And I feel like that was good preparation for, like, right now, in fact. So the picture that I showed you was the group in 67, 68, and they were commemorated, these students and my family, by being put up on the wall. The picture that I just showed you was from a picture that was on the wall there in the Moore House, and it was in a hallway between what they call the Waschzimmer, the room where the washing machines were, and the Frühstückzimmer, which is the breakfast room, where we would gather to have our Orangensaft, our orange juice, our tea, our coffee, our Brötchen, little beautiful, lovely little rolls fresh from the bakery that were ambrosial. They were like from heaven when you put farm fresh butter and honey on them. Just amazing. Put that on your bucket list, right? So this photo from 67, 68 was on the wall in the hallway between this much traveled pathway. As it happened, I decided in 1980, when I was a second-year student at Occidental, that I would go and be a participant in this program as a student myself. My brother had done it a few years before, and it had been a formative experience for him, and so he encouraged me. I decided that I would do it rather than go to the Occidental program at the Uni Saarbrücken, which would be an entire year. And because I had high hopes for my tennis season, I wanted to be back for tennis season. Consequently, I transferred to Pepperdine for a semester, which they called the trimester, and I went back to this program where my family had so much history, where I had been in this house. I had so many memories. For example, I learned to ride a bicycle out on the little walk beside the house. So I have all these memories. And I go back in 1980. So I'm a 19-year-old, and I'm in school there. One night I was doing my laundry, and I was in the hallway between the washing room and the breakfast room, and I was killing time looking at this particular photo that I showed you, and thinking about T.S. Eliot and his four quartets, and how he talks about time as being circles, and you're brought back to these moments. And what did it mean that I was back in this place where I had memories as a 6 and 7 year old? How was I going to process it? What's it all about? What does life mean? You know, the kinds of things that a 19, 20-year-old who's very earnest wants to ask late at night when he's waiting for his laundry to finish up. And while I was staring at this photo, thinking about time and life and my family, a couple of young women walked up, my classmates. They were twin sisters, actually, identical twin sisters. And they were famous within the program for having decided that they were going to affect the drawl and the speech of Texans, even though they were from Beverly Hills. And so they were called the Honey Sisters because they would finish every sentence they said with, well, honey, you know. And so they walked up, the Honey Sisters, and stood beside me, and they looked at the photo, and it finally occurred to them that I was connected to the professor who had taught them Western civilization, because Dr. Paul Randolph, the original Dr. Randolph, was the lead professor for a year-long course, Western Civilization 1 and Western Civilization 2, that he presented every year. And so he was the primary lecturer. They all knew him. They all had to take him. He taught every single student who went through Pepperdine while he did that. And so they'd all met him. They'd all dealt with him. They all knew who he was. But for some reason, the Honey Sisters never were able to put it together that my name and his name were shared because he was my father. So they looked at the photo, and they squinted, and you could see the recognition happening, and they pointed at the photo, and they both said, as identical twins will often do, simultaneously, they said, "Is that you?" And I said, well, yes, that's me. I was here when I was a 6, 7-year-old, back in the day, as you can see, right? And then they looked again, and in that weird sort of identical twin way, they again turned at me, and they said, and this is true, they said, "You were so cute." And for the record, I think that it is at least debatable that I was cute. Here's another photo, exhibit number 2. Huh? All right, that's my sister, my brother in the middle with his cute flat top, and then me with my teddy bear. Not just any teddy bear, a Steiff teddy bear, which mooed like a cow when you turned it upside down. Notice we're all wearing proper lederhosen, the leather pants that Germans wear. So Mr. Nickel has nothing on me. I had proper lederhosen back in the day. And as you can see, arguably, debatably, I was cute as a kid. And the Honey Sisters had to recognize that. And so they did. They said, "You are so cute." Then they turned simultaneously and they said, simultaneously, "What happened to you?" Well, in fairness to them, this is what I looked like in 1980. This is Mike Morgan on the far right, Jeff Laval, Lefty, and myself in East Germany back in 1980. Where I'm wearing my dad's Army field jacket there. So, what I learned from that experience, thinking about time, the significance of going back to places where you were before, is this. You might have been cute, you might have thought you were cute, but it's not going to last forever. The cute thing is the friendships that you have, the lessons that you take away, the stories that you can tell about your life along the way. A little bit earlier, I shared with you a video by an extraordinary musician who had decided that he was going to honor Lyle Mays, who recently just passed. He's a brilliant jazz pianist who worked with Pat Metheny and the Pat Metheny group. And he spliced together himself playing a bunch of different instruments around the world, and then other people that he had invited to play a beautiful song called First Circle. A few days ago, that guy in the center of that photo, Jeff Laval, Lefty, he sent me a link to that and told me that he was thinking about me. So I wanted to share that with you guys, that link. You have it. And I wanted to show you the story about what is really cute and what is really meaningful, and how Jeff figured out a way to stay connected, even if just digitally, and that meant a lot to me. So I hope that we can continue to make this journey together. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I wish you and your family all the best. Be well and manage as well as humanly possible. Let's keep our eye on the ball, and the ball is to be together in the fall. In the meantime, let's do everything we can to make progress along the way and to cheer ourselves along the way. Thank you so much.